happy to take your questions now.
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister. My name is Brett Glover with Rock 95 and Cool FM in Barrie, and we have a fairly strong manufacturing sector in this community, and I'm pretty sure they'd be happy to hear what your government plans to do on new tariffs announced on aluminum and steel in the south of the border.
Obviously, the integration of the North American steel and aluminum market is something that has created millions of good jobs on both sides of the border and has benefited companies, workers, individuals right across North America. We have, the United States has a $2 billion surplus on steel with us. So we regard the imposition of any new tariffs or any tariffs on steel or aluminum between our two countries as absolutely unacceptable. Furthermore, the level of cooperation and integration of our militaries, our defense of North America, and our working together on a broad range of security issues means that it just makes no sense to highlight that Canada and Canadian steel or aluminum might be a security threat to the United States. That's why this is absolutely unacceptable, and it's a point we've made many times, that I've made directly with the President, and it's one we're going to continue to engage with all levels of the U.S. administration on.
Good afternoon, Carly Thomas with CBC News. As far as the tariffs, have you spoken to President Trump about them directly? Will they apply to Canadian supply? If not, are you planning to speak with him, and what will you say?
I have spoken a number of times directly with the President on this issue, highlighting the integrated nature of the North American steel and aluminum market, the highlighting and reminding him of the close security cooperation that we have. I've highlighted that this is not something we wanted to see, and we will continue to engage with all levels of the American administration in the coming days so that they understand that this proposal is unacceptable.
In French as well, please.
J'ai souligné pour le président plusieurs fois, directement en personne, la nature intégrée de nos marchés pour l'acier et l'aluminium en Amérique du Nord, la coopération évidente au niveau de la sécurité, des renseignements et des forces armées qui rendent l'idée qu'on serait une menace à la sécurité nationale des États-Unis par notre vente d'acier ou d'aluminium. C'est un non-sens, tout simplement. Alors, je vais continuer. Nous allons continuer d'engager à tous les niveaux avec le gouvernement américain dans les prochains jours.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. I'm Ken Hashizumi with Sunshine 89 Really and Bayshore Broadcasting News. You chose Barrie today. This is a heavily Tory-dominated riding or area. Is that the reason why you're here today? You try to sway voters? Sounds like a question.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I am proud to be the Prime Minister serving all Canadians, and I regularly cross the country to engage with Canadians, to hear their concerns. The conversation we had today at Georgian College with extraordinary students who are engaged in the kind of learning that will actually put them in situations where the issues of pay equity that we're addressing will help them directly. I want to thank Marilyn for welcoming us here to Georgian College. It's great to be here with Jeff Lehman, who's an old friend who does a great job as Mayor of Barrie, and highlighting the different collaborations between different orders of government, between post-secondary and educational institutions as a way of building a stronger future for all Canadians is something that I'm glad to do. I was in Montreal yesterday. I'm glad to be in Barrie today, and I'll be elsewhere next week as we talk about the challenges faced by Canadians right across the country. I've been to Barrie a lot of times over the past years and look forward to continuing to return.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. Chris Simon from Simcoe.com. Speaking of being in the area, the last time you were here was in July, and at that time I know Mayor Lehman poked you about the Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund. Has there been any progress on that?
In this most recent budget, we continue to invest historic amounts in conservation, preservation, protection of our environment. And I know that we continue to work very closely with folks here in Barrie about Lake Simcoe and ensuring that we're doing the right things going forward. And I know those conversations are ongoing.
and follow up. So 2 times in 8 months you've been here. Is Mayor Lehman supposed to take that as a sign that he's supposed to run for you in the next federal election?
As always, I'm focused on making sure that we're serving Canadians the right way, moving forward in drawing on strong voices right across the country, but also working with existing voices, whether they're mayors or municipal councillors or provincial leaders. We have a government that focuses on collaboration, and whether it's been on housing or on childcare, Jeff has been a great partner, and he's doing an extraordinary job as mayor, delivering for the people of Barrie and through them Canadians.
Hi there, I'm Hayden Waters with CBC. I'm wondering what happens with Liberal MP Darshan Kang now that he has been found to have violated the House of Commons Code of Conduct.
Darshan Kang is no longer a Liberal MP.
And there's nothing else that you can kind of elaborate on that, or?
The Darshan Kang is sitting as an independent, and whether it's this process or others, the Liberal Party has no interactions or responsibility over what his next steps are.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. Beatrice Faisman with CTV News Barrie. You're obviously in your comfort zone when talking to youth. Judging by the crowd outside, they're pretty happy to see you as well. So why take your message to the classroom, especially when it comes to equality? Is this trying to target the next generation of voters, or is it personal for you with your daughter Ella as well?
This is actually about highlighting that workplaces need to change across the country. And one of the things that is fundamentally unfair is of those students, the male students are more likely to make more money for similar jobs than women students in the coming years. Not only is that wrong, but we have to fix it not just because of right and wrong, but because of good economics. This budget has been focused on equality because better equality leads to better growth. Getting more women to be successful in the workforce, understanding the impact that continued marginalization or challenges and barriers to a broad range of communities is a drag on our economic growth. That's why our focus on equality, our focus on moving forward on pay equity, our focus on investing in women to be able to be more successful in the trades is all about creating economic growth that benefits everyone. The promise we made to Canadians 2 years ago was to create that economic growth for the middle class, and that's exactly what we've been focused on. Whether it's the Canada Child Benefit in 2016, whether it's investing in better support for people returning to schools in 2017, or whether it's now in 2018 moving forward with the Canada Workers Benefit that is going to help low-income workers get more out of the jobs they're doing and be better able to support themselves and build a strong future. We're focused on making sure that everyone has a real and equal chance to succeed.
And further to that, with the budget, it's clear that your government is trying to spur growth through spending. But how do you square that with saddling these students, the next generation, with an $18 billion deficit?
Actually, fiscal responsibility is core to what Liberals have always done in government. That's why we are looking at our debt to GDP ratio, which is the lowest ratio in the G7. We have lower debt as compared to our economy than the United States, than the UK, than Germany, than any of our G7 partners. And we are on a track where that debt is going to continue to decline as a share of the economy. That's what fiscal discipline looks like. But in the last election, Canadians were offered a choice between the austerity proposed by the Conservatives or investment in Canadians and in our communities that we proposed. Fact is, Canadians made the right choice, as they always do. And our growth rates are the highest in the G7. We've created over 500,000 jobs over the past 2 years, and unemployment is at historically low rates from the past 40 years. This plan is working because we're putting more money in the pockets of those who need it, and they are creating the jobs and the economic growth that Canadians have long waited for.
Last question, please.
Good afternoon. Raymond Bowe from Barrie Today. Affordable and social housing is a big problem in Barrie. What can the federal government do for fast-growing cities like Barrie to help alleviate those pressures that we're feeling here?
Last November, we announced our national housing strategy, which means for the first time in a long time, the federal government is re-engaging in the issue of housing. What that means is a total of $40 billion over the next decade or so, with provinces, municipalities, and a big chunk of that from the federal government, understanding that housing affordability and affordable housing are key fundamental and foundational elements to success, to growth. We're going to be tackling homelessness. We're going to be reducing it by half in the coming years. And a key element of the partnership on this has been working with mayors like Jeff Lehman, who understand the needs on the ground, and empowering them to respond to the challenges that their communities are facing. We know that the challenges here in Barrie are very different than the challenges in Rimouski or downtown Vancouver, and working with local partners in a way that suits the local needs is core to our approach. So I'm very excited about the investments in housing that are going to create hundreds of thousands of new affordable housing spaces across the country, but also refurbish and repair existing stock that is also in need of significant investment. These are the kinds of things that are going to make a difference in the lives of people in Barrie and people right across the country.
So can I just come back to
Yes.
Sheila for a second, please, if I might? What are you hearing in terms of the scale of the impact if those tariffs are allowed to go through? And then I'll follow up.
We are, well, why don't you, can you come to the mic, please? That's, introduce yourself first.
Sorry, Colin with the Canadian Press of quantum mechanic computing.
I remember, you want everyone else to remember.
What are you hearing in terms of the scale if these tariffs were to proceed? What are you being told about that? What would the impact be?
Well, obviously, the level of integration of the Canadian and American steel and aluminum industries are well understood. Ingots produced, aluminum ingots produced in Canada are used by American manufacturers to in a broad range of things. We import more steel than the Americans import. Sorry, we have a significant trade surplus. Americans have a significant trade surplus with us on steel, which means we buy steel from them, they buy steel from us. The integrated nature of our supply chains means that there will be significant disruption in Canada, obviously, but also in the United States. We buy more steel from the United States than any other country, and disruptions to this integrated market would be significant and serious. But that's why we are impressing upon the American administration the unacceptable nature of these proposals that are going to hurt them every bit as much as they will hurt us, and we are confident that we're going to continue to be able to defend Canadian industry.
We have a tariff on soybeans imposed, but by my calculations, a 50% hike from India, the Indian government. Is this some form of retaliation, and what are we going to do about this?
Actually, the new tariffs, which are a domestic proposal by India in regards to their own domestic supply, are on chickpeas, and they, I believe, and we're just looking at the early numbers on this, actually hit Australia in that particular type of chickpea as much, if not more, than Canada. This is a domestic movement by domestic choice made by India, but last week I had excellent conversations with Prime Minister Modi and others about a science-based approach on fumigation issues that were related to our pulses here, where we agreed to settle the science and bring forward science-based solutions within the next year, and bring about better predictability on what tariff barriers could be, so that our hardworking farmers across this country can have better predictability about where their markets are and what kind of crops to plant. This is obviously an ongoing issue that we're going to continue to stand up for Canadian interests on. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you.